What's going on, Rip City? This is the Believe in Blazer podcast presented by Bet Online. I am your co-host, Steven Vaughn. I'm with my other co-host, Tori Jones, over there. Catch Tori at Tori Jones YT on Twitter. Catch me at Steven_VON on Twitter. Tori, what's going on, man? Blazers are on fire. This team is fun to watch. Even I can't complain about them, and I am known to complain about this. Tori, what is going on, man? How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I've spent the past 2 hours scripting a video that I will have over on my YouTube channel, Blazers Uprise. It's going to focus on the Blazers being contenders if they fix one thing. And I'm not going to spoil it. We might get into that one thing during this recording, but I'm going to let you lead this thing as I normally do. But I'm looking forward to putting out a video talking about the Blazers in contention, which I can't believe I'm saying that, man. The Blazers are 9-3, 6-1 on the road. Phenomenal season so far. They're fun to watch. They're playing both sides of the ball. I could not be happier with how they've started this year.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that 6-game road trip. 4-1 to start that road trip. They got the last game in Dallas when we're recording here, so we'll be interested to see how they finish that road trip. But no matter how it finishes, like, Blazer fans should be excited. I feel like almost Blazer fans should give the team a standing ovation when they get back to Moda Center. Like, that's how well they've played on this road trip. And a lot of it has been without all the guys, right? All the injured players and things of that nature. So the Blazers have been on fire lately. And of course, if you want to bet them to make the playoffs, to win the division, heck, as Tori said, if they do a certain thing, win the NBA Finals, do that with our friends at Bet Online. Because basketball is back and Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet your favorite sports and events, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, golf, whatever you want, they got it. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE. That is BELIEVE, BLEAV. To receive your rewards, Bet Online, where the game starts. So shout out to Bet Online for presenting our podcast and giving that to the listeners and viewers here. I think it's a great deal. But Tori, I mean, that's where I want to start here. Is this team coming into the season projected 10th in the Western Conference based on win total, based on conference futures, things of that nature. I had them at 10th. That's kind of what I thought they were at the start of the year. I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong, even though it's only 11 games into the season. It's very, very obvious that this team is better than a 10 seed. What are your new expectations for this team? Because I don't know how you feel, but I feel this team has clicked better than I thought they were, and there's still room for improvement. I don't know exactly where I want to place them in the Western Conference right now. It's still early in the season, but I will say my expectations have changed. How are you feeling about your type of expectations for this team?
Yeah, going into the season, I thought this team had this type of upside. I didn't know whether or not they'd achieve it. So it's not like anything they've done has absolutely shocked me, because obviously they brought in a better defensive roster, some rangy forwards. I always trusted Chauncey Billups as a coach on that end. They had the upside to be a good defense. I think we had a podcast before the season where we were talking about what is their defensive upside, and I said I think they can be a top 10 defense if everything clicks right. So far, right now they are the 5th or the 6th ranked defense. So they've actually been better on the defensive side of the floor than on the offensive side of the floor. They are the 16th ranked offense. They are actually slightly below average. And that's a good thing when you're talking about, is this sustainable? Because they have so much room for improvement on the offensive end. They have a couple bad games weighing them down. They've had some really good performances, obviously. The best one being when they dropped 135 points on the Denver Nuggets behind Anthony Simons' big third quarter. But Damian Lillard's missed 5 out of the 12 games. Anthony Simons has missed a couple games. Nurkic missed a game. Jeremy Grant has missed a game. It's not like they've been fully healthy, and the fact that they've still been able to be good enough offensively without Damian Lillard, and then Damian Lillard's looked like to his old self, and in the past he's carried worse offensive rosters to top 10 offenses. I fully expect some improvement on the offensive end, and the thing holding them back right now is just super sloppy turnovers. And it's not like, oh, well, they're turning the ball over because they're trying to move the ball more. It's, a lot of silly mistakes. It's a lot of misreads, just bad passes. It's a lot of boneheaded turnovers, as Chauncey Billups, I believe, put it in one of his post-game press conferences. Those are super fixable, right? So offensively, they're not even all that impressive. They're getting to the free throw line a bunch because they're attacking the paint. They're driving a lot. That was part of their philosophy before the season. And I think that will continue. But I expect some improvement there. And then defensively, they haven't even played with their best defensive player yet. And they're the 6th ranked defense. It's almost like Gary Payton II went from the guy who was going to fix things to the cherry on top, which is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's, like you said, the turnovers are a little bit of a problem. They're towards the bottom of the league in turnovers. Turnovers per possession, they're actually tied for last in the NBA with the Houston Rockets. So that is a troublesome thing. But I will say, there's still room for improvement. We forget that this team, because they're playing so well, we forget that they haven't played together very long. Right? Like Josh Hart was in Portland last season, but he didn't get to play with a lot of these players. It was a lot of with scrubs he was playing with. Dame and Ant even haven't played a lot together, right? Like Dame still missed a couple of games this year. But even before that, coming to the year, we talked about just how it's going to take a little bit of chemistry, take a little bit of time to get that chemistry going. And they're still winning games even though they don't have that chemistry. So there's still a lot of room for improvement offensively. And then you touched on it defensively, man. They are stout defensively. And there's stretches in the games where, and it's especially the second half, the third and the fourth quarter, they really buckled down on teams. You saw that in the Charlotte game. Charlotte was had a nice run in the third quarter, and then it just shut down the entire rest of the game, last half of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. And that Blazer defense, man, it is vicious. And it's something that it's a good to see because we haven't seen it in so long here in Portland. But, it's almost just like guys are giving effort and it's working out perfectly, which is so fun to watch compared to the last few seasons, really. Like, just to see the effort that these guys are playing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have needed some fourth quarter heroics to take care of business. Some of their turnover issues have made games closer than maybe they should have been, but the fact that they've still been able to pull out wins in some of these games, a couple of which they've been severely shorthanded against good teams, is definitely a positive. It has taken a couple buzzer-beating shots from both their starting forwards, so it's not Dame, right? In the past, it's Dame's the clutchest player in the league. He carries the Blazers in crunch time. Well, this year, in the fourth quarter, they have the second-ranked defense in terms of opponents' points per fourth quarter. Second-ranked defense. They're playing clutch defense, a lot of it behind a small ball lineup, which has been really good on the defensive end. And then offensively, it's been Dame a couple times, but Jeremy Grant has 4 go-ahead buckets in the final minute. 4 separate games, he's had a go-ahead bucket in the final minute this season. Josh Hart, of course, has the buzzer-beating 3 in Miami. Anthony Simons has had some good moments as well. So this entire team is playing clutch basketball on both sides of the floor, and I think that's a confidence and a DNA thing, and when you have a leader like Dame that you can trust, but then also you can hang your hat on the defensive end, and you have the length and the athleticism to fly around defensively, especially when the adrenaline is up and the game is on a line, then that's the type of team that wins close games. It would be nice for everybody's blood pressure if they could take care of the ball a little bit better and maybe be up 8 instead of up 2 or tied and needing these heroics in the fourth quarter. But you'll take wins any way you get them. That win over Phoenix when Phoenix was healthy. The Blazers go on the road. They're without Dame. They're without Ant. They still win that game. That's what good teams do. They hang their hat on the way that they play, even when they're shorthanded, and they are able to still do enough on both sides of the floor to be able to win games. And, defensively, they've been getting it done no matter who's on the floor. And then offensively, even without Dame, even without Ant for a couple games, Jeremy Grant, when he needs to, has stepped up and played like a number one. Josh Hart, yesterday against the Pelicans, stepped up and had 17 points despite him not being super aggressive offensively earlier in the year. And then, there's other guys that can step up and fill roles. Nas had 15 points last night. Shaden Sharp has had some good games, right? You have enough pieces around this core that you can be without, a Jeremy Grant or a Dame or an Ant, and you still have enough scoring, and you can still get it done on the defensive end, and therefore you could still be in pretty much any game.
Yeah, the thing that's really shocked me is just how well the bench has been playing. I thought that was a question mark coming into the season. I'm not the biggest Nasir Little fan, but he's had some really nice moments this season. He has some bad moments, but he has some really nice moments as well. Trenton Watford has come in since that injury, and he's really put a solidified player off the bench. Drew Eubanks has been awesome, Tori, I think, off the bench. Like, I can't ask for much more out of him being a backup center. I think he's playing really well. You see he has some soft touch on the inside. He's finishing well. He doesn't make all the right plays. He makes mistakes, but as a backup center, I can't really ask for much, and I wasn't expecting that out of him. Like, he looks like a legitimate NBA player, which I just was not expecting that coming into this season. So nice surprise there. And of course, it's even without GP2. So that bench is just going to get better. But like expectations wise for me, it's coming in. I had him at the 10 seed. I like to look at the betting odds. Like they're a little bit higher than that now. But I think right now for me, like for the rest of the season going forward, like I think this team realistically, like they should be shooting to get to that 6 seed at least, right? I think they could be better than that. I think that they could be the 5 seed if they really keep playing well, the 4 seed even. But I think my expectations now is that the Blazers get to at least that 6 seed and get into the actual real playoffs, not just the play-in tournament, the playoffs. I think this team, they have the look of a playoff team, and we saw that against the Phoenix Suns. Like, it looked like a playoff game. Same thing against the Pelicans. Like, it looked like a playoff game the way that they were playing defense, and I think that's going to keep going this season with Chauncey Billups. I don't hear a lot of people talking about complaining that Chauncey Billups is the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't hear about all the things off the court with Chauncey Billups anymore because you know what? He can coach, and people don't care anymore now that they like him. But it's like, I think this team really could be it should shoot for a top 6. I think that's the realistic goal right now for the Blazers. Am I still underrating them, or is that about right in your mind?
Too low. My expectation is that this team is fighting for potentially the 1 seed later on this season because it's a product of they're beating a lot of teams that they're going to have to fight against. They've had one of the hardest schedules in the league. They've been able to win these games despite not being full strength. There is such room for improvement on the offensive end. The defense, I don't see why it can't be sustainable, especially when you add GP2. And you're going to have a lot of these bad teams later on in the season that are tanking for Wembanyama, games that should be definitely winnable. And then you look at the favorites for a potential 1 seed going into the season, right? Phoenix, Chris Paul's hurt. They just lost by, 20 to the Orlando Magic tonight. Cam Johnson's out for a bit. So, they're a good team, but Portland's already beaten them 2 out of their 3 games. One of them they were shorthanded in. The Clippers, Kawhi doesn't have a timetable for a return, and without Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers are very mediocre. And then the Golden State Warriors almost lost on their home court tonight to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They pulled it out in crunch time, but they are 5-7. They're 5-7. So other than that, I mean, any other team being a 1 seed would be a little bit of a surprise. Minnesota got love before this season, but they're 5-8. They look terrible. So at this point, Utah has the 1 seed. I don't think they will fully sustain what they've done to start this year. Like, their roster isn't as talented as Portland's roster or some other rosters here in the Western Conference. But it's like, who's going to be fighting for that 1 seed? At this point, I feel like that should absolutely be the goal for the Portland Trail Blazers, to be fighting for a 1 seed when March comes along, when April comes along. They should be in competition for that because they're playing both sides of the ball. They haven't been healthy. They've beaten good teams. Their schedule will get easier. They're 9-3 right now, and they're 6-1 on the road. They've played 5 home games, 7 road games, 6-1 on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I want to agree with you, Tori. It's only 12 games though. Right, and I understand that they've played really good teams, so I'm willing to recognize that. Like, they're definitely a lot better than I thought they would be. I just think it's a little too premature to say they could be the 1 seed. Now, I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, anything is premature. It's not premature at this point because the good teams look bad. There's bad teams that look good, right? So I feel like, and this is my question for you, because I'm curious about this, is what is not sustainable out of what they're doing? Like, what do you think they won't continue to do at the level they're doing at? And will the potential offensive improvement and the team getting healthy, what won't that offset? Because right now they're playing like a team that will be fighting for a 1 seed. So I'm wondering what they won't maintain.
That's a good question. Like, I don't think that it's necessarily what the Blazers are going to do worse, right? Like, I think this is all sustainable. I don't know that they're the 6th best defensive team or whatever it was. I think that's what I said, right? 6th? Is that what you said, I believe? That's what I said as well. I I don't know that they're the sixth best defensive team. I don't know, but I don't think they're the 16th best offensive team. I think it's more in the middle for both of them. I think it's more that I think the Western Conference is gonna be fine. Like you talked about these teams and all the question marks that they have. I think they all have room for improvement that can get better. I don't think the Warriors are a 5-17. Like they are a championship contender. I think Denver's gonna, they're 8-4 right now. I think they're going to continue to get better and be right there in the mix for a 1 seed. Same with the Clippers. I know that they've been hurt and they're not necessarily healthy. I think they're going to be fine. And it's still early in the season, so I think it's more that I think the Western Conference is still really good, and that the teams are just a little better going against the Blazers. I don't think that I wouldn't say that I think the Blazers can't keep this up. I think the Blazers can. I think you're right. I think they can, maybe not at a 75% win rate, but close to that, right? Like 60%, something like that. Like they can continue playing really well. I just think that they're playing a little bit out of their mind. Gotten a little lucky in a couple of games, so I just don't think they're at the 1 seed quite yet. But man, like you said, anything is possible. I just think they're more towards the 5-6 seed, and that is a great sign, I think, going forward, because this team is still relatively new with each other.
How many games have you come out of the game where the Blazers won, but you also felt like they didn't necessarily play well?
Quite a bit, actually. If I go through the schedule, I agree with you. There's been numerous games where I thought, man, they didn't even play well, and they won. And I think that goes to show like how good they've played this year, right?
Exactly.
And I give them credit, but like, does that continue, right? Like by saying
but does what continue? Them playing bad and winning games? No, hopefully they play good, right? Like, they've had a couple of games where I felt like they've played really mediocre basketball, like very sloppy, haven't shot the best, like had a quarter where they were terrible defensively, but then they somehow win. Like the Denver Nuggets, they beat by 25, right? We're talking about the Denver Nuggets going to be up there, and they're a really good team. Portland beat them by 25, and they played terrible in that first half. They were down like 15. They just went on the run the final 2 minutes to get it close, and then Anthony Simons absolutely went off, and they win by 25, right? So it's like, if we're talking about Blazers keeping it up, like, I still think they could play. I still think they will play so much better, just like these other Western Conference teams that you put in there. So that's kind of my thought process. Like, even if the Clippers improve, Warriors improve, and so forth, I think the Blazers still have so much room for improvement and room to just get healthier and finally put their full lineup out there.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Like, it's just my opinion that I think these other teams are a little bit better than the Blazers. And, like you said, they're going to have games where they don't play well and they're going to win. They're going to have games where they play well and they don't win. Like, it all evens out at the end. So, I just think there's going to be some games where, you take into account that Miami game that they won in Miami, right? Like, they should not have won that game. They were down, they were getting worked, and then they got a nice little run in the fourth quarter. Anthony Simons goes off in the fourth quarter and they win. But, like, they shouldn't have won that game. And so it's just going to even out at the end of the season. I just think, right now they are playing really well, and they're coming on the right side of a lot of these finishes, where in years past they haven't. So that's all, Tori. Like, I understand and I like the way they're playing. I think it's very sustainable. I do think that they are a playoff team. The way they have the look of a playoff team. I just don't know that they're necessarily at the top of the Western Conference quite yet, or that they'll be competing for it. But I also don't want to put like restrictions on them, right? Like, they could get all the way to that 1 seed. So
I think maybe this conversation is a difference between goal and expectation, right? The goal should be to be fighting for a 1 seed. That's what I said, right? And your expectation is, 5 or 6 seed, right? Like, goal, I think, would be a little bit more optimistic. We're arguing semantics here, but I just think this team has showed too much positivity, as well as things that they can still improve on, to sit here and say, like, well, hopefully they can avoid the play-in.
No, totally. Do you think that, because there's not a lot of negatives, to be honest, like, and I try to watch with a non-biased eye, right? Like, I love the Blazers. They're my favorite team. But I also, when I worked for them and got let go by them from working, like, there's always a little bit of hate in my heart. So, like, I'm always trying to find the negatives in this team. And you ask me, like, what is not sustainable? There's not that much that's not sustainable. Like, this team is really good right now. I just think that they're playing a little bit out of their mind. And I might be wrong. Maybe they are this good and they are the 1 seed. I just need to see more of it. It's only been 12 games. I said at the start of the year, you got to give me to the end of November. That's 22 games. At that point, I'm really going to make decide what I think with this team for the rest of the season, I've already gone against that. I've already said, okay, 12 games in, they are way too good to even say play it. No, I've already elevated them before I said I was going to. So I'm already ahead of schedule of like how much I like them. I just think that right now they're playing so well defensively. I just don't know if it's going to keep up. And I have no reason to say it's not going to. I just think just in the history of the NBA, like, I just don't think that this team is a 1 seed. That's all it is.
Yeah. I think the only thing that people could argue might be unsustainable is the defense. I mean, but without GP2, man, I mean, you had Gary Payton II is such a perfect defensive fit on this Portland team. Their small ball lineup has been extremely good. In 119 possessions without Eubanks and Nurkic so far this season, they have a defensive rating of 92. That's really, really good. And that's with super small ball lineups, obviously. But the reason these small ball lineups are so good defensively is you have physicality and strength with Justice Winslow and Josh Hart, two of the strongest forward defenders that play bigger than their listed height, right? And then you have Jeremy Grant, Nasir Little, and Shaedon Sharpe. All three of these guys have at least 7-foot wingspans, and all three of these guys are either good or great, or in Shaedon Sharpe's case, a phenomenal athlete, right? So having that length and that athleticism, and then strong guys like Josh Hart, Justice Winslow, you can make up for, not playing with a traditional big man or a traditional rim protector. And that's more speed on the court with those wingspans that can fly around, fill passing lanes. And they've played good help side defense with their small ball lineups to not let teams get all the way to the rim. They've rotated well out of them. So the small ball lineup's been really good defensively. What are your thoughts on the small ball lineup?
Yeah, no, we talked about small ball lineup, what's our theory on centers, and I had said, don't spend a lot on centers, I'd rather just go minimum guys and mix and match like running backs. But when you go small, and you mentioned this, Tori, you have to be able to switch and play stronger than you are. You also have to rebound really well, and that's where Josh Hart comes in. Josh Hart has been so good on the boards that they can go small and he can basically be their power forward. And then Jeremy Grant can either be small ball 5 or even go to 3 basically and have Justice Winslow be a point center. They have a lot of flexibility, and you have to give Chauncey Billups credit for going with it, right? That was something that, Terry Stotts never wanted to do. He never wanted to really go small. Chauncey goes ultra small and has basically 5 ball handles out there because Justice Winslow can handle the basketball. So offensively, that is a problem for teams. And then defensively, the way Justice Winslow has changed his game to be a defensive stopper. Same with Josh Hart, who always plays, with all the heart. Terrible pun there, but he plays with his heart all the time and plays strong. It's great to see. It's great to see this small ball lineup finally get affected in Portland. And I think Josh Hart is the key to that. He's basically playing power forward for this team, and he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where just playing style and coaching comes into play with making a team really good, because if you put Justice Winslow on a Blazers team 3 years ago, he's terrible, right?
He's Evan Turner, but worse, because he's not as good offensively as Evan Turner could drive and kick better than Justice Winslow can. Yeah,
and who knows if Terry Stotts would have utilized the small ball lineup correctly like Chauncey Billups has, which Justice Winslow has played really, really well in. But then also offensively, with the way they move the ball, attack, and whatnot, Justice Winslow has not been efficient this year, and it kind of drives me crazy. But he can make the right play. He's passing the ball well. He's cutting well. He plays within the flow of the offense well, and therefore he's not a purely negative offensive player. Who knows if he's a positive or not, but when you look at a guy that is as versatile as he is defensively, being able to guard on the ball, slide his feet, but then also he's so freaking strong. He's able to play small ball center. He can maybe play some point guard in a pinch. He's such a versatile player that having a versatile defense and versatile lineups, mixing and matching certain lineups together, coaches that do that will get better use out of a Justice Winslow or a Josh Hart or some of the guys on this roster, compared to something that's just more straightforward, where you're only running one defensive scheme. The offense is very isolation heavy, and it's a bunch of people watching Dame try and create something, or CJ McCollum try and create something. And that's where, when we talk about expectations and which teams are the most talented and how they're going to finish, I just think the fit of this roster for what Chauncey Billups is doing is so perfect. You have Chauncey Billups guys on this roster, and the Blazers are able to throw so many different defensive looks at teams and different lineup combinations at teams that when you just put Dame and Ant on top of it offensively, like that's the makings of a really good team. That's what the best teams in the league do. That's what the Warriors have always done, playing, the death lineup with Draymond Green at the 5 and super small ball, or being able to go big in the past with like a Bogut. Now they got Kevon Looney starting at the center spot, just more physicality. They can mix and match. That's what really good teams do, and that's why I have a lot of faith in this team, is because of that versatility.
Yeah, man, Justice Winslow, you got to give him credit for, really accepting that role, right? Like accepting his role and changing his game when he came to the NBA. Like, this is not how he played when he was first into the NBA. So you got to give him credit. Got to give Chauncey a lot of credit for, really getting through to the guys and having them play a certain way, and they're buying in and it's working. And I think, especially in the NBA, like, you can tell guys to play a certain way. You can, put them in different spots on the court, but they need to see results, and they need to see it work well for them to buy in 100%. And right now the Blazers are buying in, and because it's working, so they're buying in. So, credit all around to everybody with the Trailblazers right now. Like, I really don't have much negative to say about it, man. Like, 9-3 right now. And, we talked about that 6-game road trip. I said 2 wins, maybe 3 wins. Like, no, it's going to be 4 or 5. And they've only been favored in 2 games. 2 games all season, and they're 9-3. Like, that is quite amazing, actually, to think about. Like, that is very tough to do for the Portland Trail Blazers. Tori, I want to play this little game with you here. So, the national media, of course, the Blazers aren't going to get any love. Like, they never will. It's always Trey Dame.
Stephen A. Smith said he loved the Blazers. I don't know if that's a good thing, but we got one of those ESPN guys on our bandwagon. I don't know if we want more, though. But go ahead.
No. I like it better when they don't talk about the Blazers. Like, just stay away from it.
No Charles Barkley jinxes, man. None of those.
I did see Chris Broussard. Chris Broussard put out the Dame for AD trade the other day. So, Tori, let's play this game here. You and me, we're hosting First Take today. And we're going to pretend the Blazers are insert good team like the Warriors or the Lakers, I guess, or the Nets. Okay, so the Blazers are in LA now. It's the LA Blazers.
Ew. I just got to say ew, but let's go. I'll play along. Let's do it.
We're going to play along here, though. What would they be saying about Damian Lillard right now? Would he be a guy that they're looking to trade for Anthony Davis, or is he, an MVP candidate? What would you think?
Oh, it would absolutely. Damian Lillard is absolutely an MVP candidate, and now he has a ton of help around him. The Blazers are a favorite in the Western Conference, and Dame should retire here. He should definitely not demand a trade every month like we actually say.
I mean, to think about that, like, that is literally what people are talking about right now. Is Chris Broussard said they should trade Dame for AD, but it's like, no, like, he was an MVP candidate, and he would be the MVP. Like, he would be the face of the league if this was LA. So another guy the LA Blazers have had a really good draft pick with, was number 7 draft pick, Shaedon Sharpe. Showing a lot of potential. Tori, there's rumors that Kevin Durant wants to be traded. Should the Blazers trade Shaedon Sharpe? The LA Blazers trade this Shaedon Sharpe for Kevin Durant? Or is that even enough? Do the Blazers need more players back in return?
Well, my question for you would be, would you trade a prime Michael Jordan for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant? Because I certainly wouldn't. And this Shaedon Sharpe kid, if you saw the way he hit that double clutch mid-range pull-up against the Charlotte Hornets, it was shades of Michael Jordan. He has the athleticism. He has the mid-range game. He's only 19 years old, and he's shooting 44% from 3. He's basically Michael Jordan with a 3-point shot. So I wouldn't trade him for Kevin Durant and 4 first-round picks from the Nets. The Nets are in shambles. They don't deserve this Shaedon Sharpe kid.
You also forgot the killer instinct of Kobe Bryant to go with it. The athleticism of Vince Carter. You got to put in at least 4 first-round picks. Maybe you get a 3-way deal, get another team to throw another star player in. But Shaedon Sharpe for Durant, straight up, get out of here. Get out of here with that. Let's talk about Joe Cronin. Is he the best executive of all time? Is he on the Sam Presti level? Is he, Greg Popovich style? Is that how good he is?
I mean, he came in and took over an organization that was an absolute shambles after Neil O'Shea had his whole scandal and departure, and he came in and he won the trade, obviously won the trade, trading Norman Powell and Robert Covington away to a small market Clippers team, getting back Keon Johnson and Justice Winslow, who has been Draymond Green 2.0 for the, I'm not going to say the LA Blazers, I'm not going to say that, but for the Blazers, Justice Winslow, Draymond 2.0, Swiss Army knife, can play point guard, can play center, can play anything and do anything you want, except hit threes. But Justice Winslow's been better than Norman Powell and Robert Covington combined, and he's been phenomenal. So Joe Cronin won that trade, and then getting Josh Hart, who's another Swiss Army knife, and he's a dog, and he's that guy. Josh Hart, since this is ESPN, this is my analysis. Josh Hart is just that guy. And
he's got that dog in him.
He's got that dog, and he is that guy, yeah. So Joe Cronin putting just an absolute complete Death Star of a lineup around Damian Lillard, finally giving Dame what he wants, what he's waited for his whole career here in Blazerland. Joe Cronin, GM of the year, probably GM of the decade, and might go into the Hall of Fame, probably deserves to go in the Hall of Fame. Joe Cronin is an absolute god.
Statues everywhere. Final question, Tori, here on the BLEAV in Blazers podcast is presented by BetOnline. First take here. The Lakers, the small market Lakers, they're 2-10 on the season, tied for last place. They do have a solid player in LeBron James. Maybe he wants out. I think he wants out. We're hearing everybody say he wants out, even though he has said numerous time after time he doesn't want out and he can't be traded. That's another thing. Don't worry about that. He can't be traded, but he's got to be traded. Should the Blazers trade, a package of maybe, I don't know, traded Watford and John Butler and maybe a second round pick for LeBron? I think that's probably about fair. I think that both teams say yes to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, since this is ESPN, we don't know whatever the CBA is here. That sounds, we don't know that thing. LeBron absolutely needs to demand out. He is wasting his entire career there for the Lakers? That's their team
Lakers,
name.
Yeah.
I haven't, I haven't watched a game of theirs all season long, but I looked down at the standings and they're 2-10, and they got this Russell Westbrook guy on their team who's been terrible, and Anthony Davis for whatever reason demanded a trade to go there, and he should demand a trade as well. The Lakers don't deserve LeBron and AD. LeBron needs to go to a big market city where he can truly shine and expand his brand. I would love to see LeBron in a different uniform, especially a Blazer uniform. Him hooking up with Dame. Dame deserves LeBron as a fourth option. So, yeah, LeBron should definitely demand a trade. And if that CBA thing is true, he should demand a new CBA as well.
If only LeBron could get to Portland, to that big market, get his brand growing, that would be great. And that is our first episode of the BLEAV in Blazer podcast, First Take, starring Tori Jones and Steve Vaughn. Tori, thank you.
Perfect. Well done.
And look, the national media is great. Like, there are a lot of really good people that cover the NBA, but there's just some things like you can't take seriously. Like, I understand, like, it's for clicks and for views. But, it is annoying to see everyone say, oh, Dame wants out. Dame should demand a trade. But we just got to ignore it. Just got to ignore it. We know that Dame wants to stay in Portland, and Portland's not going to trade him, right? Like, no matter who says what, Portland will not trade Damian Lillard until Damian Lillard comes out and says, I want to be traded. He'll never be traded. So we just got to stop worrying about it. Tori, I'm
not worried about it at all. I've been one of the few people that have been calm about Dame. Even last offseason when there was whispers and Henry Abbott had his whole thing that was not true. Like, even then I was saying, I don't believe it. I think Dame's here to stay. And now that he has this roster playing this way, looking this good, and he wants to mentor Shaedon Sharpe for the next 5-6 years. Like, he has taken Shaedon Sharpe under his wing, much like he took Anthony Simons under his wing. Yeah, I have no worries about Dame even retiring here, man. I think everything that's happened in the past 9 months has basically guaranteed it. But Dame's a loyal guy. Like, even if things weren't going swimmingly, he'd still want to be here. That's just the way he's built, and I respect that. And that's why I've said I wouldn't trade him for anything, even if it made sense on paper, because I am willing to return that level of loyalty to him.
I mean, look, like I've always said, you can explore it if you want to. I don't know I don't even know what the fair. I've always said I don't know what the fair trade value for Damian Lillard would be, but you can always look for it. You can always look out there and explore things if you want to. But I wouldn't trade him just for anything. Like, I've been asked by people, like, would you trade him for that? No, I wouldn't trade him for that because it's just not worth it. And so, I think we as a community, as a Rip City community, we just got to try to ignore that noise. Just ignore that noise, Tori, and just go from here because you know what? It's just noise at this point. Like, we know it's not true, and it's really just comical at this point. So I thank you for playing that game with me. I really wanted to play it.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm still switching out of character right now.
Yeah, all right. Take yourself out of Tori A. Smith Jones here and get back just to Tori Jones. So Blazers, 12 games in, they're about to head back home for a little homestand here coming up lately. You know what? After the end of November, it's 22 games. What are you expecting right now?
Through the course of November?
Yeah.
Record-wise, 22 games are played through the course of November. They're 9-3. So they have 10 games left.
Is there anything that they could do? Okay, let's put it this way. You don't need to put a number, but
I know I'm sitting here doing math now.
Yeah, let's not do math. That's hard. Is there anything that the Blazers could do between now and November, minus an injury? Let's just say no one gets seriously hurt. Is there anything that can happen that is going to sway your mind of how high this Blazers team can be?
No, because I think we've already seen the elite team that this team can be, if that makes sense, right? Obviously, they can be even better defensively when they had Gary Payton II, but we've already seen them be really good defensively so far this season. Like, if they had Gary Payton II look even better, it's like, okay, that's kind of what I expect at this point because he's a perfect fit for small ball lineups that we talked about earlier and then forces turnovers. And then this team's moving the ball while cutting well, and he's a really good cutter. Like, I think GP2 will thrive here. I think it will be a perfect fit for him. So, getting Dame back and healthy, and they'll probably still rest him, but if they take better care of the ball and add GP2, like, this team could absolutely look like the best team in the league over the last month of November, and it wouldn't shock me or really change how I think about this team. Like, at this point, I am thinking of this team as a contender. Okay, maybe it's a little too early for some people to think that, but contenders, what did we talk about before the season? Contenders are top 10 on both sides of the floor, right? The Blazers are 6th defensively against a hard schedule and missing some guys, and then they're 16th offensively, but they have the 9th ranked true shooting percentage. Like, they're 9th in efficiency, so they're 16th offensively because of the turnover problem, where they're like bottom 5. I think they're tied for 5th worst. So just clean up the turnovers and maintain that shooting efficiency, keep playing the same way they will. I assume that they'll be a top 10 offense as well. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm full optimism at this point, but I truly expect this team to be looking like a contender, and it's just weird. I can't wrap my head around it.
I can't say you're wrong. Like, I can't sit here after what I've seen and be like, no, you're way off, Tori. Like, I can't say that. Like, I think for me, like, at the end of November, I think I could really, I'm going to say it this way. I think right now, like I said, I've changed my expectations for the season. It's 6th seed or bust. Like, if they don't get the 6th seed, I think it's a failure of a season. And I'm going to say that right now. And so I've changed my opinion already. After 22 games, my opinion can only go up at this point. Like, maybe it's they should get home court advantage. Maybe it is they are contending for that 1 seed. So there are a lot of things still for me to be proven in these next 10 games or so. By the end of November, I think I'm going to have a real good grasp of what this team potential-wise could be. I'm still not sold on them being a contender in the Western Conference, but that could definitely change because, like I said, like, I can't find a lot of negatives about this team right now, and I'm always looking for the negatives in the team, but there's really not that many. So the only negative really is the health, and that's something you can't really control. Of course, there's the news on Friday that Shaedon Sharpe, I'm looking at right here from their press release, he has a volar avulsion fracture to his right 5th finger, whatever that means. He hurt his pinky, I think that means. So, I mean, why do you gotta be so technical, by the way? That just say he hurt his pinky, that's all. But he's questionable. Obviously, doesn't look like anything serious, but Yeah, man, I'm excited. I tell you what, this is an exciting Blazers team, and I was not expecting this story, so it has been a nice surprise for me. With that, you got anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, just dropping that video that I talked about at the start of this episode on my YouTube channel, Blazers Uprise. Just go to YouTube and search Blazers and then the word Uprise, Uprise, and you'll be able to find that video. I don't normally script videos, but I wanted to script this one because I'm focusing on a lot of advanced analytics. There's a reason I was on top of my stats today. It's because I've been scripting this video, so it helped out with this recording. So it's probably a bunch of stuff you already heard throughout this, but yeah, I'm trying my hand at scripting a video, just seeing how it goes, trying to obviously put out good content and whatnot. And then we have post-game streams, which have been a ton of fun because they've been winning basketball games and we get to talk about positive stuff. Started the channel 3 years ago. I started in the summer of 2019, so right after that Western Conference Finals run. We haven't had a good season since. The best season we have was, we lost in the first round in the bubble. It's the 8th seed to the Lakers in 5 games. Then we lost in the first round to the Nuggets as a 6th seed in 6 games. So this is kind of unfamiliar territory. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it makes for good conversations, man, especially because there's a wide open West. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this team plays through the rest of November. 4-1 road trip so far. Hopefully they take care of business tomorrow against the Mavericks to go to 5-1. I mean, Steven, we were talking about 2-4 would be okay on this road trip. 3-3 would be a success. They're already 4-1, chance to go 5-1. So they keep defying expectations.
It's crazy, man. They're playing really well. Yeah, you and Eric, you guys always do a great job over there. Blizzard Uprise, check those guys out. Pre-game, post-game, all the time. They're always putting stuff out. Of course, check me out, 750 the game. I am the producer, BFT, but I pop on there all the time just because that's what I do. I turn my mic on, I just start talking because you can't hold my opinions down. I'm going to give my opinions on what I want to talk about. So you can follow Tori at Tori Jones YT on Twitter. Follow me at Steven_VON on Twitter. Of course, rate, review, subscribe, do all those things. This is the Believe in Blazers podcast presented by BetOnline. Thank you guys over there. And with that, have a good day, everyone.